Your calendar is a lie. It assumes the meeting starts on time, the model responds in seconds, the client sends the file, your focus holds. When one of those fails, the whole day collapses. The problem is not the failure. The problem is the assumption. The Stoics practice something called Premeditatio Malorum. Translated loosely, it means the premeditation of adversity. Seneca and Marcus both return to it. The practice is simple. Before the day begins, you rehearse what could go wrong. Not to become anxious, not to spiral, to strip surprise of its power. If you have already imagined the delay, the rejection, the broken tool, then when it arrives, it lands on prepared ground. You do not waste 20 minutes on shock. You move. This is the opposite of positive visualization. Positive visualization assumes the smooth path. Premeditatio assumes friction. The Stoics believed that most of our suffering is not caused by events. It is caused by the gap between what we expected and what occurred. Close that gap, and the event loses its sting. There is a second layer. When you rehearse loss, you also see clearly what you actually depend on. What tools, what people, what conditions. Most operators never audit this. They discover their dependencies only when those dependencies fail. Premeditatio is that audit, done in advance, in quiet, without cost. Knowledge work in the AI era has more failure surfaces than any work before it. This is the part most people have not adjusted to. 10 years ago, your day depended on your focus, your inbox, and maybe 2 applications. Now it depends on a chain. The model you use, the API behind it, your internet, the specific prompt that worked yesterday, the document format the tool accepts, the rate limit, the context window, the provider being online at 9 in the morning. Every one of those is a point of failure, and each one is outside your control. You did not build the model. You cannot repair the outage. You cannot force the tool to behave the way it did last Tuesday. Yet your schedule is built as if all of it will hold. This is why so many knowledge workers now feel a strange, low-grade panic that did not exist before. It is not the workload. It is the fragility. Their entire day rests on infrastructure they neither own nor understand. When one piece breaks, they are stranded, refreshing a status page. Most people responded to this by adding more tools. A backup model, a second subscription, another automation. This does not solve the problem. It multiplies the dependency chain. More tools means more possible failures. The fragility grows in proportion to the stack. The Stoic move is different. You do not add, you rehearse. Before the workday, you spend a few minutes assuming specific parts of your stack will fail today. The model will be slow. The output will be wrong on the first pass. The meeting will run 20 minutes long. The file will not upload. You name them. Then you decide, in that quiet moment, what you will do when each one happens. Not what you hope will happen. What you will do. This has 2 effects. The scheduled work stops depending on ideal conditions, and your identity as a worker stops depending on the tools cooperating. You become the constant. The stack becomes variable. That is the correct arrangement. Most people have it inverted. They treat the stack as constant and themselves as the variable, bending around whichever tool is having a bad morning. An anti-fragile schedule is not a schedule with more buffer. Buffer is passive. Anti-fragile means the schedule has already absorbed the shock before the shock arrives. The work continues in a different form, on a different tool, at a different depth. But it continues. The cost of not doing this is subtle. It is not one lost day. It is 1,000 small moments where you froze, refreshed, complained, waited, gave up early. Those moments compound. Over a year, they are the difference between an operator and a passenger. Last week, I blocked 2 extra hours into my calendar before the client presentation, expecting something would break. It did. The deck wouldn't export to PDF, and I had to rebuild it in Google Slides. Those 2 hours meant I still arrived on time instead of scrambling. I've stopped calling it pessimism and started calling it just accounting for reality. 1 page. Paper, not screen. Kept next to your keyboard. Every morning, before opening any application, you write 3 lines. Each line names one thing that will probably go wrong today, and 1 sentence describing what you will do when it does. The format is fixed. If X fails, I will Y. Nothing else on the page. No goals, no gratitude, no journaling. 3 conditional sentences. The decision rule is this. When one of the 3 failures occurs during the day, you execute the sentence you already wrote. You do not deliberate. You do not check if there is a better response now. The morning version of you decided. The midday version of you complies. Do this before your first cup of coffee is finished. 5 minutes. If a failure occurs that you did not predict, you add it to tomorrow's page. Over weeks, the page begins to reflect the real shape of your work, not the imagined shape. The paper matters. A digital list becomes another dependency. Paper does not go down. This is the disciplined operator. Stoic practice for people whose tools will fail them.